Before looking at this statement, let me tell you the history of this zeroth law of thermodynamics. So if you look at the three or main laws of thermodynamics, that is first law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, and if you look at their hierarchy, that which law came into existence first. So the first law that was defined was the first law of thermodynamics. It was defined first and it got called as first law of thermodynamics only. After that, as first law was having some limitations, people started thinking of or started discussing those limitations. And because of that one, second law came into existence. So second law came into existence as the second position. And once there were already first and second law being defined, being used, then people or this zeroth law came into existence. Means first and second law was already there, and then this law came into existence. But when the people look at the construction or nature of that law, that was supposed to be defined at first, not at the third position, because first and second position was already occupied by that first and second law, and this law came into existence after first and second law. But according to nature of that law, it had supposed to be appeared earlier than first and second law. And as first and second position was already being taken by those two laws, the new law that came into existence was offered the zeroth position. And that's why this law is called as zeroth law. Okay, that is the history behind existence of this zeroth law. Now, what is meant by zeroth law exactly? So the statement is quite simple. Many of you might have idea about it. Many of you might be able to recall this statement as well. So suppose there are three bodies. First body A, body B and body C. Now if A and B is in thermal equilibrium with each other. Okay, there are three bodies. Out of those three, first two, that is body A and B, are in thermal equilibrium with each other. Additionally, the body B and C is in thermal equilibrium with each other. Okay, A and B is in equilibrium and separately B and C is in equilibrium. Then we can say that this A and C is going to be in thermal equilibrium. Okay, this is the law. If body A and C, A and B are in thermal equilibrium, then body B and C are in thermal equilibrium separately, then we can say that body A and C are going to be in thermal equilibrium. Now the use of this law is temperature measurement, or this law provides basis for the temperature measurement. Now how this temperature measurement is going to be done based on this zeroth law? Let's take example. Suppose this is a thermometer. So this is first body. We want to use this thermometer to measure the temperature of our body. So this is a human whose temperature is supposed to be measured. So first body is thermometer or a device that is going to be used for temperature measurement. Second body is the body whose temperature is to be measured. That is a human body. Now, the third body will be the atmosphere, in which these two bodies are placed or these two bodies are there. So when I want to measure the temperature, what I will do, initially the thermometer will be in equilibrium with atmosphere. So it will read the temperature of atmosphere. Okay. Then I'll bring that thermometer in contact with human body whose temperature is to be measured. And when I brought this thermometer in contact with human body, those two will be in thermal equilibrium. Then ultimately, I'm going to tell the difference between atmospheric temperature and human body temperature. That way, the human body and atmosphere are going to be in thermal equilibrium. So that way, we can use this zeroth law for temperature measurement. Anybody has got any doubt? Let me know. Okay. Next, types of thermometers. Now, there are certain materials or most of the materials. If you heat those materials, their properties will change. If you cool those materials, their properties will change. And if you can establish relationship between change in temperature and change in particular property of that material, we can create a thermometer based on those properties. And that's what is being done over here. So there are certain materials which are going to change their properties. So properties could be pressure or change in pressure, change in volume, change in length of liquid column, change in resistance, change in EMF, or change in intensity of radiation. So, sir, all these properties are going to be used to measure the temperature, and these properties are called as thermometric properties. Now, if I am using change in pressure as a thermometric property, the device is going to be a constant volume device. Constant volume device in the sense, if I take a vessel, I'll place one pressure gauge over here and it will be filled with some fluid and I'll expose it to a temperature. When temperature increases, the gases or gas molecules will expand, they will move here and there will be collision of molecules with each other, and the ultimate result is going to be increase in pressure, and that pressure will be read with the help of this pressure gauge. So there will be a relationship between amount of heat supplied and increase in pressure. So if I correlate this one, I can put this device in surrounding, or I will put this device in contact with the body whose temperature is to be measured, and proportionate to that temperature, pressure will get built or pressure will get developed inside the vessel, and that will be read with this pressure gauge. So that way this device can be used for the temperature measurement. Same thing will be there in case of volume also. If change in volume is the thermometric property, then device would be a constant pressure device. If change in length of liquid column is the thermometric property, liquid in glass thermometer would be there. Liquid in the glass thermometer means this is the most commonly used thermometer. The tube in which mercury is filled, that thermometer is nothing but the liquid in glass thermometer. Then change in resistance, then electric resistance thermometer would be there, because in metals and non-metals the resistance will be dependent on the temperature. In one material it will increase with temperature, in another material it will decrease with temperature. That we'll talk about while discussing this electric resistance thermometer. Then next is change in EMF. Then device would be thermocouple. Change in EMF in the sense there are certain materials or combination of materials, when they are exposed to change in temperature, an EMF will get generated, and that EMF will be or that generation of EMF will be in proportion with the temperature. And if you could measure this generated EMF, you can tell the change in temperature also. Same thing is there in case of intensity of radiation, and the device used is radiation pyrometers. We are going to discuss all those devices in details. So the first device is expansion thermometer. Expansion thermometer in the sense there would be a material which is going to expand with increase in temperature and going to contract with decrease in temperature. The first device is liquid in glass thermometer. That is, just I said, that is most commonly used mercury and glass tube thermometer. So construction is going to be like this one. There will be one bulb that is filled with mercury. Even same kind of thermometer is there that uses alcohol also. Okay, it could be a mercury or alcohol also. So construction would be, there will be a bulb that is filled with that liquid, and when it is exposed to temperature, this liquid will expand, and for expansion of that liquid there would be a hollow tube at the center of that device. And what will happen, once that liquid has got expanded, it will expand along the length, and that expansion will be marked with a scale. So with change in temperature there will be certain expansion, and if that expansion is proportional to change in temperature, then we can use this device for the temperature measurement. That is the basic funda behind the glass in tube thermometer, or sorry, mercury in glass tube thermometer, or alcohol in glass tube thermometer. So this is first example of expansion thermometer. Another example is bimetallic thermometer. This is also example of expansion thermometer. So bimetallic thermometer in the sense there would be two different metal strips connected together. Two different metal strips in the sense one metal strip having different thermal expansion coefficient, another strip having different thermal expansion coefficient. Now what is meant by thermal expansion coefficient? Thermal expansion coefficient means if this is a plate of certain material which has got maintained at 27 degrees Celsius or atmospheric temperature. If I heat this material, it will expand by some dimensions. And if I cool it, it will again contract to its original position. Okay, so there will be expansion and contraction with change in temperature. So the ratio of this change in expansion to change in temperature, this ratio is called as thermal expansion coefficient, or change in dimension with respect to temperature. That is nothing but the thermal expansion coefficient. So what will we do? We take two materials having different thermal expansion coefficient. Means one material will expand differently than other material, or in short one material will expand less, another material will expand more. We will choose materials that way. Okay, now what will happen when you took such a materials having different thermal expansion coefficient? We will join those two strips with each other, and once those two strips are joined, we will expose those two strips to the change in temperature. Now, once that there is increase in temperature, one is going to expand less, another is going to expand more. So, instead of having uniform expansion in both the strips, as one is expanding more than other, it will try to bend towards left, because this one is having lower thermal expansion coefficient, this one is having more thermal expansion coefficient. This is going to expand more, this is going to expand less. And those who are connected with each other, that's why this is going to bend towards left. Okay. Now, this is simple construction, but when you want to use this one for temperature measurement, what will we do? Instead of taking this simple strip, now these two strips will be coiled. Means those two strips will connected with each other and they combinedly will be given a structure of or converted into spiral structure, and that free end will be connected to a pointer, and that pointer will be coupled with a scale. So when it is exposed to temperature or when there is increase in temperature, because of this differential thermal expansion, this will move in either direction, in this direction or this direction. And if it cools down, it will move in the opposite direction. And the movement of this pointer will be calibrated in such a way that it will be proportional to the change in temperature. So that way we can use this device for a temperature measurement. Anybody has got any doubt? Even if you find this is little bit complicated, you can refer this sketch. This is a little bit simple version of the same instrument.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes, please.
Sir, that is correct that म्हणजे सर एक्सपान्शन जेवढं एक्सपान्शन झालं त्याच प्रोपोर्शन मध्ये टेम्परेचर सुद्धा चेंज होतं.
येस, म्हणजे आपण काय करतो, ज्यावेळी हा डिव्हाइस इस्टॅब्लिश होईल त्यावेळी म्हणजे आपल्याला हे माहिती नसेल की हे प्रोपोर्शन काय आहे, तर आपण त्याला कॅलिब्रेट करू ट्रायल अँड एरर बेसिसवरती की एवढं टेम्परेचर चेंज झाल्यानंतर याच्यामध्ये एक्सपान्शन किती होत आहे. तर म्हणजे सपोज हा पॉइंटर इथून इथपर्यंत मूव्ह होतोय, बरोबर. तर हे एक्सपान्शन मेजर करत असताना मी अजून एक दुसरा इस्टॅब्लिश डिव्हाइस घेईल आणि त्याच्यामध्ये मी पाहिजे की ऍक्च्युअल चेंज इन टेम्परेचर किती होत आहे. म्हणजे मला ऍक्च्युअल चेंज इन टेम्परेचर माहिती असेल आणि त्या चेंज इन टेम्परेचर साठी इथं हा पॉइंटर किती मूव्ह होतोय ते माहिती असेल, मग मी याच्यावरती ती स्केल मार्क करून घेईल तशा प्रोपोर्शन.
ओके.
Next device is pressure thermometer. Now pressure thermometer in the sense this is also similar to expansion thermometer, but the difference is there will be one bulb in which there will be some fluid. It could be a liquid, it could be a gas, or it could be a vapor also. And when it is exposed to temperature, this fluid will expand. It will flow through this tube, and what will happen at the free end, this free end would be like this one. So at this free end, as temperature increases and with temperature as pressure increases, this free end, will displace in either direction. When pressure increases with increase in temperature, this end will try to shift in this direction. Because increase in pressure, this tube will try to become straight. It will not become exactly straight, but it will try to become straight. And that's why this end will move in this direction. When temperature drops, pressure will drop and this will move in this direction. And just like in bimetallic thermometer, if I can correlate this motion of this free end with temperature, I can use this device for a temperature measurement. Okay. Next one is thermocouple. Whenever there is temperature range above 650 degrees Celsius, means this is used for quite higher temperature range. Now the working principle is there will be two different wires, two different metal wires, like platinum would be there, copper would be there, or some different materials, but those two wires has to have different materials. So two different material wires will be joined together. The first joining point will be this one, and another joining point will be connected through a voltmeter or a meter that is going to be used for the EMF measurement. So what exactly we do with the thermocouple? The one junction, or suppose these are two wires. These two wires are joined with each other. So this is one junction and this is another junction. So one junction is this one. This junction will be held in contact with body whose temperature is to be measured. Okay, one junction will be held in contact with body whose temperature is to be measured, and another junction will be maintained at some reference temperature. Reference temperature, usually it is 0 degree Celsius or atmospheric temperature, but that temperature has to be constant temperature, and that we are going to use as a reference temperature. And if this is temperature T1 and this is temperature T2, that is body whose temperature is to be measured is T1 and reference junction is at temperature T2. If T1 is greater than T2 or T2 is greater than T1, an EMF will generate across this circuit. EMF will generate means there will be development of voltage inside the circuit, and that developed voltage will be measured with this voltmeter, and this generated voltage will be in proportionate with the temperature difference. And if you correlate this generated voltage and change in temperature, we can use this one as a temperature measuring device. Now the effect means when you connect two dissimilar metals together, one junction you maintain at some temperature and another junction you maintain at some different temperature, and EMF get generated across those two wires. This effect is called as Seebeck effect. There might be a multiple choice question based on this one, on which effect thermocouple works. So that effect is Seebeck effect. Seaback, Seebeck effect, and that effect will be used in thermocouple. Anybody has got any doubt in this one? If you have, let me know. Okay, I'll take that as no. Next one is resistance thermometer. Fourth one is resistance thermometer. Now, if you are dealing with metal and if you are dealing with non-metal, if you are dealing with metal, the resistance will increase with increase in temperature. In case of non-metals, resistance will decrease with increase in temperature. And based on this nature, we use materials to measure the temperature. So what we will do, we will take certain material, just like here the material taken is platinum. So that platinum wire will be exposed to change in temperature, and because of that change in temperature, there will be change in resistance of that wire. And if I correlate that change in resistance with change in temperature, means if I know for what change in temperature, what change in resistance is going to be there, I can use this device for temperature measurement. That is the simplest device. Now its application is below 150 degrees Celsius. Means that mercury in glass thermometer is also there for same range, but when accuracy required is more, means when accuracy required is 0.01 degree Celsius, then you cannot go for that other devices, you need to go for this resistance thermometer. So when range is below 150 but required accuracy is more, we need to go for this platinum resistance thermometer. And the last device is radiation pyrometer. Radiation pyrometer in the sense whenever you heat certain material, it emits radiations. It emits visible radiations. And those emitted radiations will be proportional to temperature of that material. Means if you keep on heating material, the amount of radiations emitted by that material will keep on increasing. At low temperature, there will be less radiations. At more temperature, there will be more radiations. So those radiations will be used for the temperature measurement. Additionally, when we use a radiation pyrometer is when you cannot go close to the object whose temperature is to be measured. The thermocouple or previous devices requires direct contact between the temperature measuring device and object whose temperature is to be measured. And when you want to have that direct contact, you need to go close to that object, right? But in some cases, that won't be possible. Like in furnaces, if you want to measure temperature inside the furnace, you cannot go in to see what temperature it is, right? Or in some machines, while it is being operated, and if you want to measure temperature of particular location, you always cannot go to that location. In that cases, you need to go for this pyrometer. So wherever that uh, access is not possible, or when you cannot go to that zone whose temperature is to be measured, we need to go for this radiation pyrometers. Now let's look at the working principle. So there will be an object whose temperature is to be measured, and as its temperature increases, it will start emitting radiations. Now that radiations will be concentrated and focused on some location. Okay, just like in solar plate collector and all, the radiations will be concentrated and focused at this junction, and this junction is nothing but a thermocouple. Means what we saw in the thermocouple device, this junction, so there will be radiation pyrometer, and that radiations will be concentrated on this junction. And once we have concentrated all the radiations at this junction, next working principle is known to us. What will happen next? As this is the measuring junction of the thermocouple, this is reference junction of the thermocouple, and EMF will generate, and that EMF will be denoted through this voltmeter. So this EMF generated will be proportional to change in temperature, and this change in temperature will be proportionate with the amount of radiations emitted. So that way we can use this device for the temperature measurement. Anybody has got any doubt? The meeting
Sir,
is,
please explain metal and non-metal relationship with resistance and temperature.
yeah.
That
Yeah, whenever in general, whenever you expose metal to a temperature, with increase in temperature, its resistance also increases.
okay.
And in case of non-metals, with increase in temperature, that resistance drops, because when you heat non-metal, there will be increase in availability of free ions that will carry the charge. So
Okay.
in metal, it decreases, it increases, and with non-metal, it decreases.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, next is temperature scale. This one is known to you, so I will not discuss this much. This is conversion of degree Celsius into degree Fahrenheit. Then absolute temperature scale. Absolute temperature scale is nothing but the Kelvin scale. We know how to convert degree Celsius into degree Kelvin, right? A degree Kelvin is nothing but degree Celsius plus 273 that we usually take. So absolute zero is minus 273 degrees Celsius. If you are saying absolute zero temperature or absolute zero Kelvin, that is not 0 degree Celsius, but that is minus 273 degrees Celsius. Or 0 degree Kelvin, 0 degree Celsius is nothing but 273 Kelvin. This is our freezing point. This is our, now we are done with that temperature measuring devices and all. So today we are going to start with this numerical. There are two numericals that we are going to solve. We are going to solve those numericals over here, but because of limitation of time, you need not to solve these numericals. You just need to look at the screen. I'm going to solve those numericals over here, and if you find any difficulty, you don't understand anything, just bring it to my notice so that I'll cover that part again. Okay. So the first numerical that we are going to solve, I'll read the statement, note down the given data, and then I'll solve the numericals. So a temperature scale of certain thermometer is given by the relation T is equal to A ln of P plus B. This is the relation that has been given for that thermometer. T stands for temperature, A and B are constant, and P is the thermometric property. Just like in the previous session we saw, pressure is there, sorry, not temperature, volume is there, then resistance is there, intensity of radiation is there. All these are the thermometric properties, right? So similarly, this P is one of the thermometric property, where A and B are constant and P is thermometric property of the fluid in thermometer. That's fine. If at ice point and steam point, thermometric property found to be 1.5 and 7.5. So the value of this P at ice point and at steam point is given, that is 1.5 and 7.5 respectively. And what we need to find, what will be the temperature corresponding to thermometric property 3.5. So when that thermometric property, that is P is equal to 3.5, what should be the temperature that we need to calculate? Okay. So let's solve this one. First, the given relation T is equal to A ln of P plus B. This is the relation. Now, at ice point and steam point, the value of this P is given, that is 1.5 and 7.5. Now, we need not to look for database or something to find the ice point and steam point value, right? What is ice point and steam point temperature? Can anyone tell me? Just unmute and let me know. Anybody? What is the temperature at ice point and steam point?
Ice point 0.0 degrees Celsius.
Very good. Steam point?
Steam point.
At what temperature water
100
starts
degrees.
boiling at atmospheric pressure?
100 degrees Celsius.
Very good. So steam point is 100 degrees Celsius. Very good. So at steam point and ice point, that value of P is given. So that is at 0 degrees Celsius, P is equal to 1.5, and at 100 degrees Celsius, P is equal to 7.5. And when this P is equal to 3.5, we need to find this temperature. Okay, that's what we need to do. So let's do that. At 0 degrees Celsius, let's write this relation. 0 is equal to, 0 in the sense, this temperature T. 0 is equal to A ln of P plus B. I need not to put that P again here. I'll erase that one. P is 1.5, so ln of 1.5 plus B. Similarly, for 100 degrees Celsius, 100, that is T is equal to A ln of 7.5 plus B. Okay, so those two equations we got after putting the values. Let's try to simplify those equations further. 0 is equal to A multiplied by value of ln of 1.5, that is going to be 0.405 plus b. Similarly, 100 is equal to a into ln of 7.5, that is 2.01 plus b. From this equation number 1 and 2, I need to find the value of a and b. Now, how to do that one? If you look at equation number 1 and 2, I need not to go for any complicated method. I just need to either 1 minus 2 or 2 minus 1. Subtract any one equation from the other, because a has got some multiplication factor and b has got multiplication factor 1. So whichever you subtract from the other one, this b is going to be get eliminated and you will get the value of a. And when you put that value of a in either equation number 1 or equation number 2, you will get the value of b. Let me see what I have got for a and b. A is 62.112 and b is minus 25.18. Okay, that's what I have got. Now I have got the value of a, I have got the value of b. And now for p is equal to 3.5, I just need to find this p. So let me write the relation again. P is equal to a ln of p plus b, or is equal to, this p has to be calculated. A is 62.112 into ln of p is 3.5 plus b is minus 25.18. And when you solve this equation, you will get the value of t, and that t is equal to, that is going to be 52.63 degrees Celsius. So that will be our final answer. Everything. I'll use whatever I have solved previously. Okay, so there is one temperature scale, and that uses a relation T is equal to A into ln of P plus B. That relation is given for that temperature scale, and in that relation A and B are constant. This A and B is constant, and this P is the thermometric property of that fluid that has been used in that thermometer. Okay, and this T is the temperature. Now at ice point and steam point, the value of P is given, that is 1.5 and 7.5, and we have been asked to calculate the value of T when the value of P is 3.5. Okay, at 0 degrees Celsius it is 1.5, at 100 degrees Celsius it is 7.5, and when it is 3.5 we need to find the temperature. So for that one, we wrote the given relation T is equal to A ln of P plus B. Now, ice point is nothing but 0 degrees Celsius and steam point is nothing but 100 degrees Celsius. So we wrote this relation for 100 degrees Celsius and 0 degrees Celsius. So for 0, we got T is equal to ln of P plus B. So T is 0. So 0 is equal to A ln of 1.5 plus B. And on putting the, after putting ln of 1.5, we got this relation. A is equal, 0 is equal to A into 0.4054 plus B. Similarly, at 100 degrees Celsius, we wrote the same relation, and on solving, we got this relation. And we solve those two equations, because there are two equations and two unknowns, A and B, right? So we can solve those two equations, and after solving we got the value of A 62.112 and B minus 25.18. Now they have asked to find the temperature at which this P is going to be showing 3.5. So for that one we used same relation again. T is equal to A ln of P plus B A is 62.112, ln of 3.5, because for that 3.5 we have been asked to calculate the t, minus 25.18. This b is negative, so instead of plus that becomes minus 25.18, and on solving this equation we got the value of t as 52.63 degrees Celsius. Is that fine now? Hopefully it has to be.